Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Chaos Head. And in the last episode, Takumi was just on his way home from his jaunt out cafe when he spotted in the middle of the street the mysterious student that he ran into all the way back at Suame Academy. And it turns out that she's actually been sighted in quite a few places all throughout Shibuya. And now here she is in the middle of the evening, standing around, apparently holding a gigantic sword. Not wanting to have anything to do with her, Takumi decided to alter his path home, and without warning, she was right there from where she was earlier, which was in the opposite direction. For some reason, Girl B was in front of me. Flustered, I looked over my shoulder at the pedestrian scramble. She wasn't there. Yeah, as I said at the end of the last episode, that's some magic trick. I looked to the front again. As before, the sword-bearing Girl B went on glaring at me. How the hell had she circled around me? Is a very good question. There were limits to being fast. This was practically teleportation. Yeah, I'd definitely called it on that one. How'd she known I was going to turn around anyway? Probably because she's most likely been tailing you as much as Yua Kusunoki has.
Oi.
Her voice reached my ears with an awful clarity. I frantically surveyed my surroundings. I wanted to think she'd been calling to someone else. Though suspicious, I searched for someone who seemed like a suitable target for her hey. Unfortunately, the person that she's talking to is you, Takumi. And of course they weren't there. A couple of salarymen passing nearby gave Gobi dubious looks, but they soon realized she wasn't referring to them and walked away. Gobi, who had until then had been standing dauntingly in place, took a sudden step in my direction. That was sufficient enough to make me certain of it. Girl B was targeting me after all. Yeah, there is no escaping the series of unfortunate events that have sort of woven themselves around Takumi Nishijo.
お前、見えるのか?
And she's wielding her blade in a very threatening manner, as discourteous as ever. In my 17-year life, I could probably count the number of times a girl had spoken to me this curtly. There were times in which Tsubaki Kirimiya, nicknamed Sukuno, or Sunko, had talked to me that way, in a tsundere sort of way. Then again, Sunko was a 2D character from an eroge called Taomi Doll. Girl B kept approaching me even while these idiotic thoughts ran through my head. She had this overwhelming feeling to her, as though she were only a girl. Oh, though she was only a girl, sorry, I misread that. I wondered at it a little, but the reasons were simple. The sharp look in her eyes, and her oversized sword. For a sword, it had a fairly singular design. If you regarded it as something anime-esque, it was fabulously formed, but if you tried to use it in real life, it wouldn't do you a bit of good. And yet her stance seems to indicate that she is perfectly well suited to wielding this particular sword. It was definitely a weapon from a mecha anime or something. Had any mecha anime started airing recently? Except, even though I knew it had to be an anime cosplay prop, It looked incredibly hard and sharp, and it had an air about it that suggested your fingers would get sliced right off if you touched it. It was a mysterious sword.
見えるのかと聞いている。
Gobi had already cut the distance between us down to 2 meters, close enough so that if she swung her sword, it would reach me. And yet, for whatever reason, the passers-by on the scramble crossing aren't actually reacting in any way to this girl's presence, nor the fact that another student is being threatened by a very unorthodox looking sword. Yeah, something strange is happening here. They're not running and panicking for their lives. I hastily took a step back, but it was too late. Gobi shortened the distance further. She swung her sword for real. Well, that was definitely a close shave if ever there was one. But of course, once again, Takumi's emotions are going absolutely haywire, which is perfectly understandable when a complete stranger strikes at you with a giant sword. Of course, just exactly in what direction are his emotions going to take a turn? Well, you should already know the routine by now, adventurers. If you've been following this LP thus far, you should all know how this song and dance goes. Crouching down on the spot, I covered my head. If I didn't dodge it, it would hit me right in the head. It wouldn't cut me or anything, but with her swinging that hard, I get a cerebral concussion and a dented skull for sure. You might actually get it embedded in your skull as well. I hate pain.
何をするだ
I was so shaken, my Japanese got all strange. Unfortunately, there is nothing that is dissuading her from her course. Gilby looked down at me coldly. Wait, she was really close. Her feet were right before my eyes. In terms of the angle, I could almost see up her skirt. Probably not the best thing to do in this particular situation, unless you want to see the business end of that sword up close.
やはり見えるのか。
すいません。見てないです。
I hurriedly lowered my eyes. I had the feeling she was claiming, "You saw my panties, didn't you?" But I swear I didn't. I came close to seeing them, but I didn't. Besides, I have no interest in 3D panties. The only panties I fap to are either two-dimensional or belong to figures.
嘘だ。絶対見た。さっきからチラチラ見てただろ。
本当に見てない。
I think the phrase here for you, Takumi, is guilty as charged.
ふん。
And for some reason, Gobi began taking off her loafers and knee socks. As she did so, the inside of her skirt threatened to become visible again, and I was at a loss for words, or at a loss for where to send my eyes. I thought I'd catch her off guard and escape, but Gobi didn't take her eyes off me, even as she peeled off her socks. Having become barefoot, Gobi assumed an intimidating stance right in front of my nose and curved the edges of her lips derisively. Yeah, things are definitely taking a bizarre twist. Yet again.
白状させて。
Gobi abruptly pressed her warm naked foot against my crotch. The sudden humiliation of it left me incapable of feeling anything but bafflement. Yeah. Going to break the fourth wall again and remind everyone here that what Takumi is currently experiencing is, of course, one of his many delusions.
どうだグー
やめ
The people walking around us didn't so much as glance at me. If only one of them would come save me. The cold-hearted world we live in.
だんだん大きくなってきたぞ
To think that she was doing this to me in the middle of Shibuya's shopping district. So mortifying. But I was getting off on it.
ダメ
Yeah, let's put an end to that particular train of thought.
答えろ見えるんだな
Of course, with the positive delusion out of the way, it's now time once again for the not so positive, i.e. the negative delusion, to take place.
やはり間違いないお前私が見えているんだろ
And of course, that wasn't what she was asking before, but that's okay.
はい
Had she just asked if you can see me? Me, in short, was Girl B herself, standing directly before my eyes. Girl B's face suddenly crumpled with sadness, and she crouched down in front of me. With her eyes on the same level as mine, she looked at me as though she were clinging to me.
私誰にも見つけてもらえなくてどれだけ声を出しても誰にも届かなくて
That's actually rather somewhat tragic.
体はすり抜けちゃうし寒いしほら見て私足も透けちゃって自分に何が起きたのかさっぱりわからなくてもう何年も何十年もこの場所さまよっていたような気がする
Could she be a ghost? No way, how dumb. I don't have a trace of ESP.
ずっと探してた私を見つけてくれる人ありがとうありがとうお礼に
Not liking the look of this.
お前に取り付いてやる
Well, would have been disturbing.
見えるんだな
Would have been disturbing if if that had actually been real rather than a delusion, but luckily it was just a delusion. But of course, delusions aside, it's time to see what Girl B is actually, what she's really after in terms of tracking down Takumi Nishijo. Girl B looked down at me coldly. She was aberrant. Doing something like swinging a sword wild around amidst all these people. Could she be a phantom killer? Or else the new gen criminal? A friend of the demon girl? Doubtful, considering the fact that she's wielding a sword.
助けて殺さないで
Before I knew it, I was trembling. It felt like I'd shit myself in fear any second now. From this angle, the sword actually looks like it's made entirely of crystal, or at the very least sapphire.
何を勘違いしている？
The fact that a menacing-looking student is about to decapitate us with a giant sword.
私はただ見えるのかと聞いているだけだ。
What the hell was she talking about? Was she going to kill me if I couldn't see it? I couldn't answer without knowing what I was supposed to be seeing. Perhaps it's something to do with the sword itself.
少し落ち着け。
That's interesting advice coming from you of all people.
もう一度聞くぞ。この剣、ディソードが見えるのか？
Wait a minute, what did you just call it?
え？
D-sword. It was the first time I'd heard that word. She must mean the sword she was carrying, but... For the time being, I nodded. Well, hopefully she doesn't kill us over the fact that we can see it. Geez, of course I could see it. It'd be weirder not to see it. And yet... the pedestrians around us are not reacting to the fact that this girl is holding this particular sword. Because she was carrying around a sword that big and conspicuous in the shopping district of all places. I'd be able to accept it as if this were Akiba, but in Shibuya? No way.
そうか。お前も集められたんだな。
What do you mean by gathered? More cryptic. Gathered? Who? Gathered who? More importantly, gathered by who? I was here of my own accord at least, but...
エラーを見たことがあるか？
Do you speak in Japanese? I wanted to say, but typically enough, I lack the courage. After all, if I said something careless, she'd stab me. Really though, she hadn't been making any sense whatsoever for a while now. What exactly does she mean by era? Not era, I mean, era. Could you be referring to, a glitch in the Matrix? Some weird form of deja vu?
見たら教えろ。
After saying this to me, Girlby turned on her heel. Her skirts wavered in the breeze, making it seem like I might glimpse her panties. I hurriedly closed my eyes. We've already been down that road of delusions before.
私は3年の青い瀬名。
And we finally have an introduction. Sena Aoi.
駅前の電車にいる。
My eyes went wide. Soon afterwards, the girl who called herself Sena had vanished. I was so dazed, it prevented me from realizing not a single thing she said was comprehensible until after I returned to my base. Speaking of which, we should probably get going while the going's good. And we actually made it to the next morning. Which is precisely where I'm going to end this episode of Let's Play Chaos Head, and when we return, adventurers, it's more than likely we'll be seeing the Senna again in the immediate future. Yet another thing that Takumi Nichijou has to worry about. So I will leave you here, and as always, adventurers, until next we meet.